I read it in 2 hours.
In 2 hours?
I'm a fast reader, but I didn't breathe. I did not breathe.
And when I looked at them, I thought, oh, that's maybe going to be quite a hard pitch to get published. I thought, what sells? What do people enjoy reading? And people love books about serial killers. So I thought, okay, what if I can take this genre, popular genre, and wrap my quite academic themes in this? As women now, we should be really angry about the manosphere, about the Epstein files, about people that we have as politicians today. That is an important emotion to tap into.
Hello and welcome to the Bibliophiles. I'm Sophie.
And I'm Chaya.
And today we're very excited to have a special guest with us, Imani Thompson, who is here to talk about her book, Honey. I've got my own copy. Going to get mine up too. Honey, which we read for this month's book club in tandem with Wide Sargasso Sea, but we'll come to that. Imani Thompson is a British writer of Jamaican heritage, and after studying sociology at the University of Cambridge, she worked as a bookseller at Daunt Books while writing her debut novel. She lives in London and has quickly become one of the most talked about new literary voices of 2026. Honey, a darkly comic, provocative campus novel about a Cambridge PhD student whose accidental killing of a professor spirals into something much bigger, has been praised for its sharp exploration of misogyny, race, power, feminism, and female rage.
Next month is going to be such an amazing month for the book club.
I actually feel that I've been quite pushy on both titles. I've been really adamant about these ones. Our new book is by the amazing Claire Daverley. I absolutely loved her debut novel, Talking at Night. We read it when it came out, didn't we? It really was. And I have to say, I know people talk about second book syndrome, but I think her new book is even better somehow. I really believe that it is. So we're going to be talking about People in Love, which is coming out in July. And we're going to be talking to Claire at the end of July on the podcast. So make sure you get your copies of that incredible book, and we look forward to touching base with you on it.
I haven't read it yet, so I'm really excited.
You're going to love it, and I'm going to be really annoying about it, and I'm going to be messaging you all the time asking what you think. You're going to love it.
The pressure is on. And for our classic book, we are reading Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. I have read that a long time ago.
And I've wanted to read it for a really long time, and then you got another copy sent to you, and I felt that it was meant to be.
Absolutely. Two very, very different books. I think People in Love is such a good one for the summer. It feels like it
is perfect for the summer. I'm almost sorry that I read it earlier this year, but summer, beach, pool, or just anywhere warm, you are going to love it. I'm sorry, I'm being incredibly annoying about it.
And Parable is so different and so brilliant. It's from a writer that deserves so much more acclaim, I think.
Well, it's great that her books have now all been reissued and restyled. I'm really excited to steal that one off you.
So those are our books for July. We are so looking forward to that.
So for this month's June book club, we read two books. One was Honey by Imani Thompson, which we both really loved. It's a really incredible and accomplished debut. And we'll be talking to Imani in just a few moments on our podcast. And we really hope you enjoy that interview. But we also read for our older book, Wide Sargasso Sea, which interestingly enough is mentioned in Honey by Imani Thompson, which was kind of weird. I kind of love it when those things happen. This is by Jean Rhys, and it's almost a prequel to Jane Eyre. And we just wanted to have a little bit of a chinwag about this one before we get stuck into our interview with Imani.
Yeah, because there are so many themes that I think really connect these two books. So we're just going to take a few moments. And actually, the journalist and writer Fua Hirsch wrote a really wonderful essay on Wide Sargasso Sea, which is the story of the forgotten first wife of Mr. Rochester.
The Woman in the Attic.
From Charlotte Bronte's novel, Jane Eyre. And she calls this the perfect novel. She says that it's painfully meticulous sentences, which so alienated the teenage me, she says. And she thinks it's the work of genius. Races everywhere. Its legacy is real and traumatic. You can't opt out of it. And Bertha is the spirit of doom itself.
I mean, that moment when we know it's Mr. Rochester, but he is actually not named in this book at all, which is incredibly impactful. But when he calls her Bertha, that is so significant. I actually read somewhere that this book, obviously, it is the story of the woman in the attic, where she came from, how it came to be that she became the mad woman in the attic. But I read somewhere that actually this isn't really a prequel to Jane Eyre. It's more as if it's putting Charlotte Bronte on trial.
Yes.
And I kind of love that for this book.
So for those that haven't read Jane Eyre, in Jane Eyre, Jane falls in love with Mr. Rochester, and you find out that he is already married and that his wife is in the attic and she's mad. Jean Rhys wrote this. It was published in 1966. It's postmodern, it's post-colonial, and it's a feminist prequel to Jane Eyre, which was published in 1847. And it's the background to his marriage. And from the point of view of Bertha, her name is now Antoinette. It's told from the time of her youth in Jamaica and it's about her childhood, her unhappy marriage. I would say, it's not really coming of age, a buildings room, and it's more her trajectory and very, very interesting in terms of the post-emancipation position in Jamaica.
I think it's brilliant in that respect, because I think actually what this really, when you read about Antoinette in her childhood, and actually as she moves through life, and in fact, it's largely because of this that her life moves as it does, but she really almost doesn't belong anywhere.
Yes.
And she's caught between black and white, Caribbean and European, colonizer and colonized, wife and outsider, all of these things. She doesn't really fit. And actually, I read somewhere that the Sargasso Sea is a place where there's like a real lack of clear currents, and often like there are ships who've just got stuck there. Even that particular sea in itself is almost stuck in nowhere, no man's land.
It's kind of, I wonder,
I don't know if that's necessarily why it was depicted as such, but it's interesting.
It's so funny.
But I think you really, that as you say, that period in history is so brilliantly brought to life through her as a character. She takes on so much.
She does. It's set in a sugarcane plantation in Jamaica. It opens a short while after the Slavery Abolition Act of 1833 abolished slavery in the British Empire in 1834. It explores the power of relationships between men and women. It discusses the theme of race, Caribbean history, assimilation, particularly the patriarchal society, because she's very much kind of a pin utilised by the different men around her, as is her mother, as are the women in the story. It's so slim, it's so profound. It didn't take me long to read at all. I don't think, maybe like an hour and a half.
I actually, it took me a surprisingly long time. I just thought I might read it quicker, but I kind of was savouring every word because I felt it was so beautifully written. And I also loved that even as such a slim book, not only does it say so much, but the structure was so fantastic. And I loved the shift in perspectives that occurred throughout. Like you see it through Antoinette's eyes, then you're seeing it through the unnamed Mr. Rochester's eyes. And you can really get a sense of how people were thinking.
Yeah.
And maybe why they were thinking the way they did. It's sort of, it's kind of, it really takes you into the interiority of these characters.
Very much so. And of the time. I never really thought about the change in society post-emancipation and what it must have been like to be on these islands.
Yeah.
And it's actually, I say this in the interview that we've just filmed with Imani Thompson, but there are jarring scenes in Honey on race, and there are really jarring moments in The Wide Sargasso Sea, particularly in even how they speak about others.
Absolutely.
It's so of its time. You're like, this is very uncomfortable to read. Should I be reading this? Should this not be cancelled?
Yes.
And it's like, well, no, actually, this is a really important book that is a representation
of that time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we're so delighted that we paired it with Honey, because the themes of post-colonial, and particularly Imani Thompson talks about Afropessimism and lots of very big themes on morality and justice very much come to the play as well in Wide Sargasso Sea. So please do consider reading it, because I think it's fantastically interesting.
And make sure you stay listening, because we're going to hand over to Imani Thompson now as we interview her. We're delighted to have you here, Imani Thompson. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think anyone who's listened to this podcast will know that this speaks to us on every single level. I read it in 2 hours.
Can I tell you?
In 2 hours?
I'm a fast reader, but I didn't breathe. I did not breathe.
I read it in the car driving to France, which is not something I love doing because no one loves reading in the car. I actually didn't even feel nauseous. I didn't speak to anyone, and I said I was very busy. And for my whole journey, I read it from first page to last. It was longer than 2 hours, more like 4 or 5, but I am a much slower reader than you.
Well, that's still really fast. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
It's so excellent. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
I hope the debut has been everything you've wanted and more. We have a whole host of questions for you, but honestly, well done.
The debut experience has been so much more than all of my wildest dreams, actually.
Good. Well, it deserves it. I mean, there are so many books. It's such a saturated market and it stands out. I also think it's speaking to a part about female rage that we're all feeling at the moment. We mentioned that we're reading this in tandem with Wide Sargasso Sea, which is the story of Bertha, and you'll know you said it's your mum's favourite book. It's that mad woman in the attic. And I feel like both of these books centre on women who have been reduced to symbols. Whether that's the mad woman, the angry feminist, the difficult woman. There were some really jarring scenes in here when I really wanted to throttle the people that were being spoken about. But it's about the unhinged woman. And I wanted to know whether you were consciously engaged in that literary tradition and, you know, what books kind of inspired you from that unhinged aspect.
Unhinged is a really interesting work because it's one that's been brought up so much since the book's being published, but I not say it was one that I thought of a lot when I was writing. I was interested by anger at the beginning, and I was writing into ideas of satirizing female rage, and I felt like there was a lot of books that were doing that. But then quite quickly I realized she wasn't driven by anger, and for me as a character, it moved into a space where she was very bored, and she was acting out of boredom, and she was acting to chase a high. I oddly never felt of her as being that unhinged because she feels in many ways very calculated about what she does. But of course, if you then look back at the whole narrative, you're like totally unhinged, completely. Like it makes sense that people would read it this way. But I think when you're really in the psychology of a character, I didn't think about that also because I didn't want to judge her too harshly. It sounds strange, but as the author, I don't think it's your role to judge your characters because then you can't empathize with them.
That's a very interesting point. I mean, I kind of loved her, actually. I loved Yrsa. I think that we should have we given a little bit of a plot summary? I think we might want to, or
well,
I've kind of done a little bit, but
she carries on. Let's put it this way.
She carries on. What starts as an accident develops into something more like, well, can we call it an addiction? Who knows? But I found her in some ways kind of terrifying and in other ways incredibly relatable. And I think that's a sense that a lot of readers have had about her. Like you can't hate her. Like there are so many parts where she's really very funny and she feels really human. Was that something you deliberately set out to achieve, this kind of, I guess, almost Killing Eve-esque, lovable psychopath kind of vibe? That's what I felt.
Yeah, completely. I actually took a lot of inspiration from Killing Eve.
Did you?
I love that show because when I started writing, I was like, okay, she is a sociopath, potentially a psychopath, and how am I going to make her lovable, but also that you root for her? Because I don't think it's very interesting if you read a book and you don't root for the protagonist. So I did look around and I thought, who's a lovable psychopath? I was like, Jodie Comer's depiction of Killing Eve, Villanelle and Killing Eve is perfect. So it was a big thing. And humour is why I really lent into to characterise her in that way, to make her relatable, to have a friendship group that was relatable. She goes on dates that I think we can all relate to.
Yes.
It was to build out a world where we're like, oh, I see myself there and I'm laughing along with her. So when she kind of tips over the edge, I have actually been with her quite
just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
It's interesting that you talk about the humour because I think female anger is often treated as either comic or pathological because people... It's that whole concept, and I think about this a lot in politics, that when women are passionate at the dispatch box, we just saw this in like the Deputy Prime Minister's question. This was a few weeks ago. It's like people saying, oh, she was very passionate. But then when a man is very passionate, he's a leader. And so that pathological aspect of anger, but then you've balanced it so incredibly well with the humour. Was that at the forefront of your mind when you were plotting this?
It was right from the beginning. I was like, I need to make this book funny, partly because I just love really bleak comedy. And I think British humour does it really well. And Irish humour, shows like Bad Sisters or The Thick of It, Peep Show. the work of Michaela Cole.
I love Peep Show. Yeah, I love that so is much. For me. It's the best. Oh my gosh, it is.
I breathe the thick of it.
Can I say one thing? You're not going to get the reference. Rainbow Rhythms, that episode. It was the first episode I ever watched. Sorry, everyone, go and watch Peep Show, Rainbow Rhythms. And you must too when you go home.
I've watched the thick of it maybe 100 times.
I know. It's so wonderful. And that satire. And what humour does is it relaxes the reader because we're dealing with such heavy themes in the book. And I wanted the reader to be like, okay, no, this is for me. I can engage with this. I can laugh along. But then the flip side of that is you're complicit in the story. And when you're dealing with murder, that was a really fun way to play with the reader.
So clever.
I want to mention Sam Mack because when I started reading your book, it came a little bit after I'd watched the Louis Theroux Manosphere documentary. And I thought, wow, because you must have written about him some months before, and now this question, this whole kind of, I guess, subculture of the manosphere has really come to the fore. It's something that I think most of us had seen as fringe, but is really making its way towards the mainstream. And I feel you obviously had really spotted that before perhaps we all, I'd seen it, but not in this way. And it's, to have that documentary on Netflix and everybody be talking about it. And I just wondered, were you always sure you wanted a character like Sam Mack in the book to kind of show your reader about these people existing? Because I think that it's so important to get those characters across to people. That's how many people come across them through literature. So I just wondered if you'd really wanted to do that. He was there as someone who had to be seen by us.
Yeah, it's really interesting because obviously now with the manosphere, but when I was writing, that term wasn't in use. It was incel culture that I was looking at and reading into. So I wanted her to kill men in ways that women were often killed. So having that premise made me look at the most violent spaces in our society. And of course, that took me online.
Yeah.
And it took me to the world of incel culture, which the narratives that are being told there and fed to young boys are so horrific. And the manosphere it's a manifestation out of that, but it's been bubbling up for many years. So there were characters in that space who were easy for me to pick out on and say, okay, I'm going to write them right into that. So that's where it came from. But no, the Louis Theroux documentary is amazing. It's
perfectly
really
timed.
And now,
thanks, Netflix.
No, that's right. The timing was. I felt the timing. I love that.
It
though.
was astonishing.
I love that.
Fortuitous.
And, the brilliant show on Netflix about the young boy who kills adolescents. Exactly. I mean, I felt very much that there was some of that there too.
No, there is. And it's how young men are being groomed on the internet and all of this very latent misogyny in society just bubbling up. And, these men are allowing it to have this space and this voice. And I think it's so depressing because a lot of what these men are feeling, it's very fair to be feeling this in late stage capitalism with society failing people as it is. But of course, it's not women at the heart of the fault of this. So it's really, and what I felt watching the Manosphere as well is it kind of felt like a pyramid scheme, where the men at the top, they'll sprout anything to make money. Yeah. And that in itself is so insidious and dangerous too.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the big plus is hopefully, I mean, I'm not going to talk about this in too much length, but, the concern is, that it getting younger and younger, the age at which people are seeing this stuff. So hopefully now with the ban that, that might be a bit better. This sort of what people say. But let's see indeed.
I have a funny question and then I have a serious question. Let's place yourself as the main protagonist. Who are you killing?
See, I think this is a bit of a tricky publicity question because I think that I can say it's okay to kill anyone. That's my stance as an author is like violence is not the answer. The way to feminism is not to murder men.
Are we sure?
I think we have to be sure.
I'm not sure. I think
Kaya, who are you killing? Who are you killing?
This is for every woman who has ever looked at a man and thought, do you really deserve to live every day?
Well, what is funny is when I describe what the book is about to women, I do often see this look flash across their eyes like, I've thought about it.
Or what about, I've done it?
I know, but it's like, no, violence is never the answer. It's really not.
It really isn't. And please, if any readers tell you that they have they kind of confess to you anything, please do report it to the police.
You've got to say that.
I do have to say that. What really spoke to me and what I think is the brilliance of your debut, I actually think it's quite disgusting that this is your debut. I actually think do have to offer an apology to other writers who try and do this because it's not acceptable.
It's not okay. That's your report.
It really isn't okay. I was reading thinking, is this actually a joke? You have balanced quite a propulsive plot with character introspection. There's interiority, but then there's also weaved in very naturally aspects from sociology, aspects from feminism, on class and race. And Yrsa sits at that intersection because she is both an outsider. It felt to me that she felt as an outsider, as did some of her friends, from the elite group in Cambridge on so many different levels. And then you also have that juxtaposed with the fact that she's a woman trying to date and these men are horrendous, but they're so recognisable. So I wanted to know, that's a fusion of feminist and sociological texts. When you were writing this book, were you weaving them naturally, or were there things that you wanted to hit? Like, were there points that you were like, I've got to put that in here?
When I write, I'm often writing through questions that I have, and they tend to be quite academic questions. Or with Honey, it was feelings I had about being a woman of colour in the world, the history of that identity. And then I'm using fiction and plot to answer it. It's an interesting process that goes on. So there'll be some things I'm consciously thinking about. I consciously thought about how to weave the critical race theory into the novel, because actually the Afropessimism came in, not at the first draft, and it underpinned the plot so perfectly. So that was a big thing of me going through the texts and saying, okay, this aligns with this and this builds out these themes. But with character, they honestly, it's like having imaginary friends in my mind. And they reveal themselves, they build these worlds for me, and I'm kind of working with them to answer questions. So there's things that happen subconsciously when I'm writing that I haven't even realized I'm doing. But it was really, as you said, around the intersection, that's what I really wanted to hit in Honey, was all of those intersections. And it's interesting you think she's an outsider, because with Cambridge, what was so great about that as a setting is it's such a microcosm of everything going on in the world. The university it's an interesting place in lots of ways, and Cambridge is not a place historically built for women of colour, but she's thriving there and she enjoys the power dynamics of it. And that was quite fun to write a woman who understands the politics around her, the power dynamics around her. But because she's not emotionally engaged in the world in the same way, she finds a freedom with it and an enjoyment in playing the game. So she sort of makes herself an outsider. She is, but she's also not. I mean, she's topping tripos, she's thriving. And that was really important for me to show someone, really excelling in that space as well.
Amazing. I like that. I hadn't necessarily seen her in that way before. Like, yes, she is an outsider, but actually she is thriving. She is, which is,
Well, she's an outsider on the basis of that, the perception of Oxbridge.
Exactly.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
That's changing now.
It is. And I think it's really important to have that conversation about the university in many ways. The microaggressions that she experiences in the book, those things are going on. But there's also really radical work being done at university. And all the sociology that I learned that's in the book, I learned that through very amazing professors at uni. So I think with the university, there's this push-pull constantly going on power dynamics. When I was there was a lot of conversation around, has the university become too woke? That's why I put this into the book. But equally, I was reading incredible critical race theory, black theorists, like feminist theory there. I think it's just an amazing space to write about.
Yeah. And it's that time in your life when actually you can almost choose who you want to be. You reveal what you want to reveal about yourself in a way, and you can keep back what you want to keep back. I understand you actually worked at Daunt.
I did, yes.
I mean, firstly, I must ask which one?
I worked mainly in the one in Holland Park and Notting Hill.
Lovely. So how long were you working there before? You were working there while you were writing this book?
I actually had a different job when I was writing the draft of the book. And then I lost that job, so I finished the manuscript between jobs. And Dawn, I was editing and revising whilst working.
Cool.
But it was an amazing job, one for teaching me about the world of bookselling, but also because so many people there were writing. And so it was kind of like a low-key writers group.
That's very
so
cool.
lovely.
It's
we
great
then
to have
set
that
up
support.
a writers group as well,
That's
which is
so cool.
incredible.
I was going to say, was it helpful for you to be surrounded by books in that way? Did it broaden your reading in some ways? And obviously it gave you a writing group, which is a fantastic thing to gain, because a lot of writers don't necessarily have access to that at all.
It really broadened my reading. I think before, and because of coming from university, you read quite a lot of dead authors. And then working at Daunt, I was like, oh, there are so many people alive who write some like really great contemporary fiction. So I read way more stuff that was being freshly published, which was, I love doing that. And I love anything modernism beyond. So I was introduced to some wonderful writers, and everyone who works there is so smart. I mean, lots of the Daunt people, they have encyclopedic knowledge on books. It's incredible.
I do find it amazing when I walk in and you'll be like, have you read it? And someone always has, or like they are reading it or about to. But I mean, the knowledge is fantastic like that. I mean, for me to work in Daunt, that would. Yeah.
I have a much broader question now because, so I think you mention in the book, in fact, I know you do because I've got it right here, Lorde's The Uses of Anger from her keynote address in 1981, which for anyone that doesn't know, so Audre Lorde was such an incredibly important thinker and writer, and that specific essay looks at the potent responses to racism and oppression and the fact that it's kind of this like vital source of energy that needs to be harnessed to challenge injustice. All of the themes in your book, I feel for me, the underlying question that I left with was the moral relativism when it comes to violence, because in some ways the men that die do deserve it. And you're like, the world is
say this.
The world is definitely a better
But don't
place.
kill anyone.
And I'm like, I get where the thought process is. You know, we deal with so much. If I think of like the carceral system, and we deal with so many issues in our society in an oppressive way. And I wondered what you actually thought, taking this in a broader way. You've done your degree, you've written this book. What do you actually think violence represents in our society? Do you think that there is a place for harnessing that anger? Because there are moments where I wanted these characters to be angrier. There is a scene in this book where the white professor covers the poster for the black female group. And it's like, no, you don't need your own space. I'm like, is this actually happening here? Can someone just slap around the face? And I just wondered kind of what place anger has for you and what you think in a broader societal setting.
Well, I think anger and violence are two very different things. So I love that essay by Audre Lorde so much. And I read it a couple of times before I started writing. And she says that anger expressed and translated into action is a liberating act of clarification. And I think that's really true. And as women now, we should be really angry about the manosphere, about the Epstein files, about people that we have as politicians today. And that is an important emotion to tap into. And an interesting thing I find with the novel too is the idea of, you know, the trope of the angry female novel. And I think sometimes we can belittle novels if they're put into that space in the same way that you say, oh, she's just an angry black woman, or she's just an angry woman. And what that's doing is delegitimizing the anger, because of course it's so powerful if we do tap into it, and we really, really should. But that's separate to violence, as I said. And for me, the arc of the novel had to be that by the end, we don't ever think that violence has justification.
Yes.
So through the book, she's using all of this theory to attempt to justify what she's doing. And her supervisor pulls her up by the end and says, you're doing academic cartwheels, like this doesn't make any sense. Because ultimately she just enjoys killing for the thrill of it. And I was really interested by this when I was writing and thinking about why, say, like states kill and murder as they do or go to war. And I felt that we always give justification, like, oh, it's religion, or they were on our land, whatever it is. But ultimately, if you're repeatedly killing, not all justification will fall through. And it's because I think you kind of enjoy playing God. And that's been true for humanity for quite a long time. So with Yrsa, she actually becomes everything she accuses her oppressor of being.
When you say that, and I totally get it, but one thing that I loved that you did, because obviously repeatedly killing, the enjoyment of it, just doing it, I get that. But I loved how it was towards the end, and I'm not going to spoil it, where you actually find out what happened to Yrsa when she was a child.
Oh my God.
And why the book is called Honey. For me, that's such, like, I love that in books, when the moment when you're like, the title is this because, and actually, I'm not saying that justifies her behaviour. Of course it doesn't. But I think that by giving that to us at that point, you do see her differently. It certainly made her more human. And perhaps even by that point, I perhaps loved her so much that I kind of thought, see, look what she went through. as a child. And it's not surprising that this happened. But actually, of course, most people who went through that experience would not go on to become serial killers. But I'm just offering that as a counter because for me, in a way, maybe justification is the wrong word, but it definitely did something to me to make me really think maybe it's okay. Like,
she's like taking.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
It totally does for her characterization and the psychology that she's set up on as a child and how she, I won't say what it is, but she ties death and liberation as being two sides of the same coin, which also then ties into the Afropessimistic theory of the book that liberation will only be found in death. But then with the final lines of the book, my hope is that you realize because she chose the path of violence, she never ultimately finds emancipation because that's only found on the path of love.
Yeah. I love that.
So many things.
I've got goosebumps. No, because I think it's really, when you put it like that and actually when you read it, it just makes so much sense, even though in many ways, as you're going along, it's kind of, it's just a brilliant propulsive story, but there are so many layers to it. And actually, I think even as a genre, it's quite hard to pin because there are parts of this that feel like a campus novel, which is obviously hugely popular at the moment, but always has been. There are parts that feel like a thriller. There are parts that feel like a critical feminist text. And I wondered when you wrote it, were you hoping that it might cross all those different genres and not be something that actually is just one thing? And I suppose Yrsa herself, no one's just one thing really, but for me this is very much many things, and that's why it works so beautifully.
I definitely thought about this because my pitch to myself was I knew all the themes and questions that I had that I wanted to write about. And when I looked at them, I thought, oh, that's maybe going to be quite a hard pitch to get published. So I thought, what sells? What do people enjoy reading? And people love books about serial killers. So I thought, okay, what if I can take this genre, popular genre, and wrap my quite academic themes in this? So it was like an intellectual challenge that I had. Can I make it propulsive with the plot? Can I hit genre points, but can I constantly subvert that as I go along? So I'm actually really pleased that you think it doesn't quite fit into a genre.
Yeah, I think in the best way.
I don't know how some readers might feel about that because I think sometimes people could pick it up being like, oh, it's a thriller, it's a serial killer book, and then get quite disappointed probably with the crazy murders that she gets away with, which would be very bad.
I think it's in the best possible way. You can't pigeonhole it, and I love that for it.
I actually think what it does so well and why I think it's achieved so much for a debut is that if you are into true crime and you like the psychology of it, but the more academic themes are not your vibe, you can read it and go, well, she's in university, it's part of the plot, and be a bit more dismissive. If you're someone that's very into that aspect, that will be the stands out. It's so weaved that nothing overarches.
Dare I bring up a title that also does that? It's quite famous. It's called The Secret History. Just because that is a book that is so rooted on campus, but it's also heavily influenced. It's full of classical references. First time round, I did not have a clue what a bacchanal was, right? I mean, I read it on a level. There's also a killing. Obviously, we know who's dead in the first line and who's done it, but it's a why done it. But another book you can't pigeonhole, and that's one of the greatest books of all time. So I mean it as a compliment
only
indeed.
The highest praise here.
But I love the campus. I love the way you have portrayed university life, but in this way, in such an explosive, fascinating way.
I think it's also what's just really beautiful about fiction is that it can work on all of these different layers at the same time. And when I write, I do sometimes think about that, okay, this is my layer of plot, but this is my layer of theme and image, and this is another layer of how like intertextually it's working with other texts. And, if we're comparing it to academic writing, which is often very like straight on one layer and one line of argument, I think fiction is so wonderful because you can have all of the emotion in there and all of the academics and any wider world like idea that you want to pull on all at the same time. And as you say, different readers take from it what they will, which I also think is really beautiful.
Oh my God, we both had very different experiences reading it. I felt like I was back in Feminism 101 in UCL with my professor. I wanted her to read this. I wanted to be like, look, this essay, look, this. But then you were reading it like campus.
Yeah.
It was a very different vibe.
But we both loved it.
Oh, I wonder if you could give us, obviously you have your background in sociology from Cambridge. What are the books that underpinned Honey for you? What are your recommendations for readers interested in sociology or interested in feminism or interested in Afropessimism? Like, what are the books that sit behind it?
Well, so I did read the book Afropessimism, but I don't know if I would recommend it.
Excellent. Okay.
It's quite a tough read. There's a really good New Yorker article about the book.
I appreciate that.
I would read that.
I love an article instead.
We can put the link in the show notes.
Yeah, this is brilliant. Also, the work of Saidiya Hartman, again, Scenes of Subjection, is quite a tough read. But her book, Wayward Lives, Beautiful Experiments, I think is just gorgeous. And what she's doing is she's looking at archives and she's saying that women of colour have been written out of the archives and there's not material on them. So she uses a form of speculation and fiction to reimagine their lives.
That's why fiction is so important,
exactly.
isn't it?
And I think it really is an academic tool, fiction, as well. And it's quite excluded from academia, but she's an author, a writer, a critic, an academic who's saying, no, we can use this. So that's a really wonderful book. Audre Lorde's essays, Your Silence Will Not Protect You, of course. The short story that I quote at the beginning, Jamaica Kincaid's Girl, just anything by Jamaica Kincaid, really.
Wow, fabulous.
I think you should read Wide Sargasso Sea and listen to your mum, because I think you'd love it.
And Hood Feminism. And I brought this, but this, have you read The Poet by Louisa Reed?
I haven't.
It's a novel in it's
a poem.
It's a long.
I know. It's a poem. It's a poem.
No, there's a specific phrase. We're going to scrap that so that I don't sound so stupid. But it's a novel. It's a poetic novel. but it's very much like the elite academic culture, female rage.
Is it Oxford or Cambridge? Does it specify, or you just know it's Oxford?
It's Oxford. And like there are lines in here like "Give me the confidence of a white man," and like
honestly,
you'll love.
Can we all take that confidence of the middle-aged white man?
I chose to interpret your arrogance as another body part, an essential organ you would be less without. It's really very good.
No, that sounds
You'll love
good.
it. Oh, this is the one. Give me the confidence of a mediocre white man who thinks he has the right to a woman's work, her words and womb and everything else. Every other line, you're like, mic drop, mic drop.
There's a lot of tabs in that book. There are a lot of tabs.
Very excited.
I wanted to ask just one question about your process. You mentioned that you are writing at the moment.
Breaking news.
Which is very exciting. And I look forward to that coming out. But I just wondered, on a typical day when you're in the thick of your writing, what does that look like for you? I always find it fascinating to hear from writers.
There's not really a typical day because I'm such a routineless person. I wish sometimes I could have a routine, but I'm also a real procrastinator.
Oh yeah.
So normally it will get to around 10 p.m. on a day and I'll think, oh, I better write something. So a lot of Honey was written between 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. And also a lot of my book now is. But I've come to see that the procrastination is quite a helpful part of the process because I'm always thinking about the book. Like on a deep part of my mind, I'm constantly focused on the story. And it takes me a really long time to figure it out, to unweave the plot. I also feel when I write stories that it kind of feels like the story already exists and I have to go out and discover it. So there, like I'll hear songs and I'll be like, oh, I know that's in the book. Or someone will say something and I'm like, it opens this door to another scene in the book that I immediately know has to fall into the story. So there's quite a sort of mystical process to it, which I think is why I like writing late at night because the world is quiet. So I can tune into the story a little bit better.
You're more of a night owl than me. I mean, I'm such an early bird.
My day starts at 10 p.m.
Yeah.
That's when I feel like my brain works. I'm such a procrastinator also.
We're basically never awake at the same time. I don't know how we do this. How are we both here?
That's so interesting that you think there's this mystical process. So writing Honey, you did you have the complete narrative arc? Did you know exactly what the plot points were, or were you just waiting for it to fall in your lap?
I didn't. I knew I wanted the arc to be this arc of her losing her justification and sense of self in ways. But then I didn't know how that was going to play out. And the way it normally works is that I'll get a few ideas for scenes that I know are coming up and will definitely be in the book. And then I have to bridge those scenes and work out how I get there. It's the best way I can describe it.
I also want to know, there are some hilarious dates on here.
Yes.
Are these based on real life? What are the worst dates you've had, Imani? Go on, drop the tea.
I don't actually think any of the dates are based on my real life. I mean, some of the things were taken, when I write, it's like such a mix of my personal experience, things my friends have told me, things I've read. It all kind of goes into a pot. So actually by the time it comes out to the page, I sometimes can't even tell where the source is.
Amazing.
But some of the lines that the men say in books, are based on truth and are
love
often
that,
things
obviously.
that my friends have relayed. Men have said to them as well.
I was like, I wanted you to be like, there is this boy in Cambridge and he's a rower and he did this.
There needs to be a book of all of those logged in, like those what
Yes.
people have said and what's true. Are you going to tell us anything about your next book?
So no serial killers in book number 2, I'm
Okay.
afraid. It's set in the near future. It's set down in Dorset where I grew up. And it's inspired by events that happened around the Bibby Stockholm, which was a barge that was housing asylum seekers. So it's looking at migration, the climate crisis, questions of having children in uncertain futures, and a woman who's very set on sabotaging her marriage.
But not by killing.
No, by killing.
I am
By just
excited.
good old classical
That
cheating.
it sounds fantastic.
But that
That's
sounds like you're
very
doing
cool.
exactly what you did with Honey. Like you're taking these much broader themes and then placing them in fiction and then
Yes.
playing
And
with
parts
them.
of your own life, like going back to Dorset.
Yeah,
I
it's
love
using the domestic to look at very big political things. And again, it's because I have my own questions about the future, about everything I'm writing. It's me trying to figure answers for myself.
Do you think we're all doomed?
I mean,
It's not going well, is it?
it's not the cheeriest of books.
It's not going well, is it? I mean, I think is that not the question? I just think, right, that it's not really gone well, and therefore, if men could just take a step back and
Yes.
women could run the show for like a year,
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
I just not to
You
get
think
too
we'd
political.
be less doomed? That's
just-
for sure.
I'm a massive politics fiend, like beyond. That's why when you say the in the thick of it, I'm like ping. And sometimes when I'm reading interviews or watching interviews with politicians and I'm thinking the standards that women are kept to compared to men is mind boggling. And then you'll be, and then you'll the inherent misogyny of women's emotions and women's rage and being a mother and how much we deal with and the silent work women. Like, just let a mum with 8 kids at the Treasury.
No,
She'll
honestly,
sort it out.
She's sorting out all those timetables every day.
My sister's got 4 kids. Put her in government. She will do it all. And then bake a cake. Do you
And
know
it
what
will
I
be
mean?
delicious.
I really couldn't agree more.
And then I also think that it's interesting that you talk about the incel culture. We don't really have a female equivalent at all, do we? We don't have this concept of we deserve something from men. We are thankful for the crumbs. And I say that with a great husband. So I just think, all of those issues, a lot of them are male rooted. So if we let women at these major questions, I think we could sort it all out. That's why she's got a point. Yrsa's got a point.
Yeah, you're so into Parliament.
All I'm going to say is any men close to hire, I would just be very, very careful over the coming weeks. Barry, watch out.
Well, he knows. He knows. Thank you so much for joining us. I think
No, thank you for
I
having me.
probably could have cross-examined you a lot more on your academic background because I think you've got a lot to say on so many questions, but actually a lot of it is extolled within Honey. I think
And
it's
it
fascinating.
really is an absolutely brilliant book. Like, I loved it. And I don't regularly read in the car, and to have sat there for those hours and gone through this, it was because it was so great. I think it's a brilliant book and deserves all the praise that it is now receiving.
Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
If you like this podcast, and we hope you do, please make sure to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And in case you don't know where that is, that's Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Hope to see you there.
For our paid Substack listeners, there is going to be a quick fire round with Imani Thompson only on Substack, exclusively for you.
I have to say, it is really good.
It definitely
It
is.
really is.